evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome back to Market Check after a long week of no market check. It is I, Louis T, joined by Big Tuck, aka Haggard. How you doing? We are here to cook you up some alpha here. A lot going on in the crypto markets, to say the least. A lot going on in equity markets as well. So a lot to cover. A lot has happened over the last couple of days. Of course, the BB travel curse is still in full effect. Seems as if every time one of us or all of us get on a plane or travel somewhere, the market absolutely just nukes and poops its pants, right? So we've been seeing that time and time again. Hopefully this curse ends and maybe flips the other way, where if we travel, we start to enjoy our trip because price goes up. But last couple times of travel just has not been very enjoyable. But glad to have you guys in here. We're going to be covering everything we can just to get a pulse on the market, see what's going on, and kind of like getting a feel for, where we're going to bottom, right? We're seeing Bitcoin obviously losing local structure. ETH had already pretty much put its down move in earlier in the month, not making crazy new lows here on this big move out of Bitcoin, which I think is signaling a sign of potential strength to come for ETH and altcoins. With this big move over the last couple of days on Bitcoin to the downside, losing its local structure. Alts have either made higher lows, made equal lows, or made only slightly lower lows here. And most of them are holding, their high time frame structure still, even with Bitcoin puking now almost 25%, right? Actually, no, we saw, wow, this is a 29% pullback for Bitcoin. And we're seeing alts hold up fairly well. Obviously, they did have their down move earlier in the month. But it's not getting worse, right? And if most people were expecting things to get way worse, right? Once we saw this Bitcoin structure get lost, and that's just not the case. So are we seeing a delay? And we're going to see it, down the line, more downside for altcoins, or are we, are altcoins bottomed, right? Or are everyone who's going to sell altcoins and ETH have they already sold, right? And is it basically coming down to that these things have, nowhere to go, but at least back up in the short term at a minimum? So glad to have you guys in, and let's get into it. So, what's going on, Tuck? What are you seeing out there?
Oh, guys, what a week. Yeah, it was not a good week for us to be traveling and not doing market check. It was a terrible week for that. We went to Eth Denver. That's why we weren't running market check. We were kind of scattered. Nobody had their desktops or anything like that. But yeah, it was not the week to do that, unfortunately. And here was my thing. Last year we went to Eth Denver, and it was super bullish. It was great. The team was all there. Pepe pulled a 10x. It was awesome, right? Because I get the travel curse, right? Every other time it's been bad, and I was like, you know what? Last year was good. Maybe. No, I was wrong. It was bad. And the trip was not the best. Max got food poisoning or norovirus or something. He was down bad. Tommy Snorlax injured himself a little bit on the ski slopes. We skied one day, and yeah, it was pretty brutal, actually.
And they didn't even let us in.
Yeah, no, and here's the other thing. We walk up to Eth Denver. We walk up to the door, and we're like, "May we have a ticket, please? May we come in?" And they're like, you're gonna have to oh, there's Prometheus. You're gonna have to register online, and it'll take about a day to process your thing. And then basically the guy told us to kick rocks and come back the next day, and we were like, okay, we're not gonna do that. So yeah, we just
that was it was the most typical ETH thing to happen. Pretty much turning away money to come into a convention that was pretty much not even a quarter of the way full. I actually saw a picture on Twitter. I guess someone was there and they tweeted like Eth Denver like lit or something there or so, and it was literally just like a whole stadium. And it was like empty, like no one was there. But yet they want to you apply, take 24 hours rather than just being, oh, you want to come in and check out what's going on in Eth Denver? Sure, buy a ticket, come on in. No, they turn away money. So it pretty much was the the definition and kind of what ETH has been doing was our reaction at ETH Denver as well. So yeah, it definitely wasn't the best trip, but I think looking back at this, a year or two from now, we're just going to laugh and just get a good laugh out of it. But in the moment, it wasn't the greatest trip. No, it wasn't the greatest trip. The only good thing about it was, got to meet some more teammates and just had, some good time with the boys while we could. But yeah, definitely, if you guys are down bad, don't worry. We were not having a great time either.
No, we were not. But yeah, let's get into the market a little bit here. I'm gonna pull mine up real quick. So this was originally this raise been on here for a while. Wanted this to hold. It did not. Okay. Bitcoin absolutely blasted through that thing. Now, I kind of want to do this live because I'm going to delete this because this actually works really well. And this is not an original idea by me, but this, okay, this, I don't even know what you want to call it, but I like drawing these lines. I guess that's really all there is to say. So here is what I've been looking for. Okay, I think we're going to drop it down to the daily. These have actually been pretty accurate. Okay. Now, in terms of where we're going to bounce, right? Tiny bounce here, bounce here, bounce here. Here's my thing. And I didn't draw the last one actually quite yet because we need to talk about that. But I think it was from here. Let's see. Yeah, that's the last one. So, in my opinion, I think it is either here. Okay, either we can reclaim this 83, or I think we come visit 75K, right? And I think there's not a whole lot of in between. Now, there is some confluence if we want to look at FVGs, right? If we want to look at FVGs, there is some confluence that, we came in and we filled. We didn't fill that one completely, but I'm going to put the midline on these. We came into that one. We filled this one completely, obviously. So some decent levels, right? But I don't know. For me, it's either we hold 83 and that's it, and we fill these FEGs and we're good, or we're going to come down to 75. Okay, let's get rid of that. We're going to come down to 75 and do this, basically, right? And this is the important part, right? This is the important part, is that sideways, right? I think we're probably going to need a little bit of that because I don't think it's a V recovery scenario, right? I think it's going to end up being more like this, where you get a big candle down and then you range sideways and then you go back. But to be clear, I do not think it's over, right? Like, I don't think we're in a bear market right now at all. I don't. Bitcoin is down a lot from the top, like Louis said, 29% basically. So I don't know. I think this week, yeah. This weekly candle is going to be important. Like, if we can close the weekly at like 84, 85, that starts to look better and here's the other thing you want to see. You want to see volatility completely die, right? You want to see, like what I was talking about down here. You want to see some weekly candles like this. Right.
Some pausing candles, some indecision candles.
Especially in TradFi too. Yeah.
Yeah, TradFi is actually, I don't want to say the more concerning sector, but like we really haven't seen like the VIX blow out. We haven't seen the S&P nuke really hard. QQQ, down a little bit from the highs, right? Down 7%. I mean, that's not a small amount, but
yeah,
I think if we are going to see TradFi come down a little bit more, like maybe 200 on IWM, but kind of what Jackus has been looking for has been first you get all-time highs on IWM, and then that's your signal, really. Like that's really all there is to it.
Yeah, I think IWM and the Russell are like, I think they're at a key level here. If you go back to that old the 2021 all-time high, that range, we're still inside of that distribution range. But if you start losing this support, I don't think that's a good sign. So kind of at a must-hold level. As far as equity goes, they've been putting a lot of pressure on the crypto market. On top of all the issues that we saw last week, obviously you had the Bybit hack and stuff like that. So everything was just kind of piling in at once. Where things did look promising for at least some relief before that happened, but it happened, right? So instead of going up and then possibly coming back down later, we kind of are just going down here. But a lot of stuff coming into key hold levels, right? Like, Bitcoin at that 29% pullback area, like, coming into that percentage pullback where we have seen historically in Bitcoin, right? In bull markets, anywhere from 25, 30, 35% pullback for Bitcoin in a bull market and continuing to make new highs. We've seen that historically, but, you start playing with that, plus 35, 40%. Things get a little more different and a little harder for the market to rally back to the upside. I mean, we did see one time Bitcoin had that 50% correction in the middle of 2021, but it did come back, but it barely made new highs, and that was ultimately the top. So kind of business as usual for Bitcoin. I think we saw the bigger move out of ETH and altcoins earlier in the month, a couple weeks ago. Like right now, as you can see, like ETH had just barely made a new low from what we did earlier in February, right? You had that big wick to the downside. And something that we've been talking to our Discord a lot about is, these wicks, these large liquidation events, more than not do get backfilled, right? And that's exactly what we're seeing, right? So that was backfilled. We even saw that, that reaccumulation range right to the left. All the lows got swept there. And we're coming into our bear market support base, right? Like zooming out, we put a multi-year base in the bear market, right? So ETH's got to make a move here, right? You start to lose that level. And it doesn't, like, you can maybe deviate it briefly, but like I've been telling the Discord guys, you start losing that bear market base and it doesn't reverse quickly. And by quickly, I mean, a single day reversal or a day or two under, but, reclaim, get back above. It's not looking good. It's definitely not looking good. So it's kind of at the put up or shut up level for Bitcoin, for ETH here. Needs to happen around this area. We're at basically macro range lows. We're coming into support. And this is going to be, the next couple, days to weeks are going to be very telling as to what we're going to see in the future. So it's either hold here or make a low in this area, or there's something inherently different going on with ETH and the crypto market that's never happened before in history. So I know there are a lot of people out there, hindsighters, saying this was obvious. This was, obvious that this was going to happen. If you're saying that, you were betting on something that's never happened before. So you're likely talking for clout or you're looking for clickbait. So that's that. But yeah, put up or shut up time level for ETH for sure. Can't deny that. But we got to see equities not remain heavy, and until they don't, I think that's going to continue to put pressure on crypto as well.
I will say with TradFi and equities, like it needs a little bit of a breather. I mean, you're putting a bearish divergence. I mean, there's a bearish divergence on the weekly and the 3-day. And if we were to continue to just grind up into this like 6,100 to 6,150 level, I mean, I think that would be more bearish in my opinion than having a little bit of a reset, letting the market kind of have a little bit of a breather. You know, it's clearly exhausted. I think if you just get continued, choppy price action up here at 6,150, you're just not going to be able to get that volume and you're going to be able to get that push up through this, obviously key major level. And a little bit of a, pullback further here would also be in confluence with, potential last spike up in the VIX, then a crush in volatility. You also see potentially ETH and Bitcoin bounce from their current, or, not bounce, but accumulate sideways around these levels. Because as Louis was saying, on Ethereum, we are at the most important level on the chart. Like it is the level that you were chopping sideways at before FTX nuke. It was the range highs for the entire bear market lows. It was the resistance for the ETF, BTC ETF breakout. We then came back and retested it in Jan of 24 before we went up to 4K. We held it in the August 5th lows, and now we wicked down to it at the beginning of February, and now at this capitulation that we've had this past week. So this is like ETH, or that Louis was saying, it is the most important level on ETH by far on the entire chart. Like it does not get more important than this. And I think, if you look at the RSI too on the daily, we haven't come down into the levels that have historically marked the lows on ETH for on the chart for the past 2 years, right? The FTX lows, the the big capitulation wick we had in August of 23, same with August of 24. I think the RSI is a little bit more left to give in it, and then once we see that, I think it's game time for ETH. Obviously the altcoins will follow, and everybody wants to hear us talk about their favorite alts, but talking about Ethereum and what's going on with the majors is only going to then, shed light on what's going to happen with, the rest of our bags and the rest of our alts. So just little thoughts there.
Yeah, I could. Let's see. I mean, yeah, probably daily RSI. I agree for sure.
Little lower.
Yeah, a little bit lower.
Well, I mean, looking back to the bear, like the initial plunge into the bear market, it looks like it didn't make new lows in price, kind of range there, but it looks like the RSI continued to make a new low, right? If I'm not mistaken. Like if you go all the way to the left there, that first plunge into the bear market, yeah. Go to that formation. Did it make the Pico low on RSI on that wick low, or did it make it after? Okay, so I made it on that wick low. Okay. Yeah, so we might have a little, yeah. That just goes back to, like if we do see ETH make one final push lower, it's in that level where it needs to hold. So must hold level, RSI completely oversold on that move. And we'll see if it acts as it has acted, right? This whole cycle.
We need to look at this though. We need to look at dominance, USDT dominance, because man, that's tough. It's got room, in my opinion. Maybe daily could be topping out, but I think it's got a little room higher. Just because it broke out of this, right? Like this candle really told you that, yeah, it's probably going higher. But I mean, those were pretty much equal highs. They got swept, so I like that. But
I do like that move, right? It
Yeah,
kind of took
yeah.
out. Yeah.
I mean, you really don't want to see it give too much more, I will say. Like if you start to see us push up above like 6, you're probably going straight to, go grab the wick at 6.5. So you do kind of want to watch those levels right there.
Yeah, I think it's gotta get smacked by like this structure, right? Like you get above that, then you're talking about like 7, then you're talking about filling in this whole move, which would not be ideal, but I think there's a chance it's somewhat topped locally, right? Like we could get a bounce in crypto, right? Just because we swept these equal highs, but
Wow, Bitcoin's almost green on the day.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Big reversal.
I mean, look, you guys know I'm always optimistic, right? Because this is a multi-year swing trade I'm playing. I see some people, see some people talking shit in the chat, which is fine. People are angry, that's fine, right? But people play these markets different ways. The way I play it and the way I've been successful over the last 8 years is not intertrading the intermediary moves for the larger move, right? That's kind of just, and I'm able to do that because I was in early, right? I was here in 2022. Throughout 2023, buying the lows. So a lot of my portfolio is sell out multiples. So, that's just how I play it. Other people don't have the risk tolerance, right? And, they don't want to experience that drawdown. So they'll try to trade in and out. But what I will say is historically, people that try to trade in and out of a bull market have historically not done well, or they're outperformed by people that just, trade the whole cycle. Obviously, seeing what we've seen in ETH and altcoins more recently has been a change slightly. But I mean, again, if markets rip back from these levels, people aren't probably going to be bidding down here. They're going to be too scared, right? If you sold higher and you're coming into these levels, the fear is probably going to be too high to get back in, and likely you're going to be chasing higher. So not saying it's going to happen, but and again, with Bitcoin, like Prameet just said, large bounce today, right? We have seen a scenario on Bitcoin where we have seen a similar structure, and we did V-recover. And I'm not saying we're going to, but there have been instances where we have, right? So if he's going to pull it up here, do you know what I'm talking about, Tucker, where we've seen something like this before, this cycle?
this cycle, I mean,
No.
you could talk about here,
No.
but dude, this is very reminiscent, actually.
That, yeah.
But what are you talking about?
Right before we went into that couple 100-day range, coming out of the bear market lows.
No,
before that, yep. So you got that little double top, ran the high to the left.
This?
To the left. Yep. So put a line at the base, right at the neckline.
I mean, this was the double top.
No, not that. The smaller double top. Zoom. What are you on? Drop down to the daily or like the 12-hour, the 18. There you go. Yeah. So, yes.
This little double top.
Yep.
And then boom.
Yeah. So if you put a line at the neckline, right there, draw, and then you got liquidity right below, right? Like basically what we're doing now. We had tons and tons of liquidity sitting just below Bitcoin. One set between 82.5K to 85K. We had another set of liquidity, obviously that CME gap, 77 to 76, something like that. Both have been tagged at this point. And in this scenario, we kind of did the same thing. We ranged for about, and the funny thing is about this example, Tuck, is look at the timing. This was January 2023. We started the range. And then we lost structure first week of March and then shot back up. So the timing of it as well is very similar as to where we are now.
I think we need to look at this.
That too. Because in this instance, alts were nuking, right? Had nice moves, but they nuked. And that was like your last move for Bitcoin before it went on to make the really big move. So, there are instances where, Bitcoin has done a move like this and come back, whether it's a ranging environment for a couple weeks, a couple months, or whether it's the recovery. But regardless, you're coming into that deep value for Bitcoin as well as ETH and alts, right? So.
Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, I'm getting messages all the time. Based off of that chart, how do we feel on seasonality? I mean, I have people messaging me all the time now, and they're like, well, based off of seasonality, should we, wait till, end of April and then get out of our bags and then look to buy back in late Q3, early Q4. What are your guys' thoughts there?
Like sell here?
Not sell here, but like wait for a potential bounce into, end of April, mid to end of April, and then and then look to buy back at the end of the year. What are your guys' thoughts there? Especially in confluence with that chart that Tucker has up right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of think seasonality is cooked now. Like, if we were gonna follow, which is what our whole thing was, or at least my whole thing was, is like Bitcoin, ETH, altcoins are gonna follow the seasonality that they do every 4 years. Q1 is good for ETH and altcoins, and then you sell before the summer, and then you come back, and then that was like that's just the pattern that we've done every 4 years, right? So that is measurably different, and at this point invalidated, I guess, right? So it's tough. Like, I think your 4-year cycle seasonality can, I don't want to say be thrown out the window, but I mean it's clearly different, right? It's clearly different. So I don't know, but I think I see a lot of similarities with this, and I should point out, like, this was not a V recovery, right? This took 45 days. I mean, I guess that's actually pretty quick, but
It's actually a pretty good recovery.
that's actually a pretty good recovery. But
Yeah.
45 days would be like what? April.
Yeah.
See, that would flip seasonality on its head, right? Where you buy in April and ride out the summer, and then
it's like going to be the opposite of what we've always seen, which is fine, right? My opinion, if you didn't sell, at or near the highs before we saw the puke on ETH and alts earlier in February, and you're going to try to get cute after we're seeing Bitcoin make the move, and ETH kind of trading at or near its lows back in February. I personally, the way I play the market is I think it's too risky trying to time that, right? So if you're positioned, you sit on your hands, you wait for a reaction down here. If we do continue to slide, I think that's kind of your max risk. We're like, okay, something's inherently wrong with ETH, altcoins, and we're going to see a longer term bear. But if we do start to bounce, you're positioned. The problem is when you sell a position or you flip your bias, some people are able to do it great, some are not. You kind of, it takes a lot to flip you back, right? So like, let's say you're selling, right? And you're like, I know the price is going to go lower. And when it does, I'm going to buy, right? Let's say it does go lower, but at that point, the sky is falling. If that's happening, there's obviously got to be more turmoil in the equity market. There's got to be some sort of worldly turmoil. Are you actually going to bid that? Right? Because it's gonna be a super scary environment, and most people won't, right? Most people will not. On the other hand, if we do see a relief bounce, and then it starts going higher, then you start to chase, right? Then you're buying and you're chasing it. Then it pulls back again, and then you go, oh crap, I just got trapped. Then you sell it. Then it pumps again, and then meanwhile we're just putting in a bottoming range, and you're just chopping your portfolio up, right? You're just gonna get chopped to bits. When you were better off probably just sitting on your hands and letting the market do the move it has to, put in a bottoming formation and reverse to the upside. In my experience, I've always found to not really do much in these environments if you don't catch them beforehand. If you catch it beforehand, you sold when you start to saw weakness, you buy back at the lows. Congratulations, that was well played. But there are risks that you can get chopped up and more or less hurt your portfolio, versus just being like, look, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not good enough to time the markets on that short of time frame. I'll just sit on my hands. I'll let the market play its hand, and hopefully, the market ends up doing the work for me and comes back. So I've always found success doing that over the last 8 years in these markets, and that's how I'm playing it. So.
Yeah, no, I agree, Louis.
I'm in the same boat. Like if you are trying to chase down here, like shorts, and you're trying to get in on shorts down here, you are so late to the party. It's just, I mean, your RR, it's like, what are you trying to catch now? You
Right.
know, like where's you're trying to look for another, 10% move down after we just nuked 25%. It's just like, I just don't see it.
Yeah. Like let's say you did sell, right? You sold before we saw the carnage, or you sold a couple weeks ago once we saw some of that. Like, if you're not buying now, what are you trying to bottom tick the exact tick? Like, in my opinion, if you sold and got out and you were able to save yourself some downside P&L, great, right? But we just showed you guys we're seeing a 30% pullback on Bitcoin. ETH, not really losing its local lows, not losing a local structure as of now. If you're not starting to buy in now, what are you waiting for? Because if that's your mindset and you're set on price hitting a certain number or lower or continuing to go lower, that's a great recipe to get left behind. And once that happens and you start to realize that, again, you're going to put yourself in a scenario where your emotions, your fear, your FOMO start to kick in. And that's where you don't make the rational decisions. So if you're not buying this move last night into this morning, or at least starting to get back into the market, I'm not really sure what you're waiting for. You're likely trying to bottom tick this, or you're full on bearish on the crypto market, which is fine. But in my opinion, if you were bearish and you did happen to sell, if you're not starting to enter back in or at least dabble in this area, I don't know. That's just a recipe to get left behind, in my opinion. So
I want to see 75K. I do.
yeah, and not saying we can't go lower, right? But that's the thing. Like, for me, it's price areas. Like, when I buy an asset or I'm selling an asset, I know the general area I want to buy or want to sell. I think people get too caught up in exact prices or exact trend lines or stuff like that, when realistically price is going to do what it wants. It's going to be in an area. So that's how I've always looked at it. And we got that CME tag right on Bitcoin, right? To me, in my opinion, lower than that that CME gap. I mean, maybe we could fully fill it. We start to retest the top of that base we put in last year. I think that's more of a sign of weakness than strength, right? Obviously, TA, you can get a breakout, you can get a throwback, and then you can continue higher. But in my opinion, I think if we were going to do that, it should have happened a long time ago, not months and months later. At that point, you're more or less looking at a failed breakout, not a retest, right? So a lot of people are calling for, retesting that base, which looks nice on the chart when you draw it out. But in my opinion, that should have happened months ago. And if it does, you're looking at a possible, failed breakout on the higher time frame, in my opinion. So I think this CME gap that we got, the 70K range, as well as the 82 to 85K range, liquidity being filled, I think that's more than enough. Not to say we can't go a little lower, but in my opinion, this is the area. This is the area.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, it's very, very, very key inflection points on the charts across the board. But I still just can't look at TradFi and say that does not look toppy. I'm just getting signals across the board, on the VIX and the ES and the NAS and Nvidia's weekly bear divs that there definitely needs to be a cool off and a reset in the broader markets. But could it be that crypto front ran that move? I mean, sure, absolutely. Where is liquidity first going to leave when we kind of get more risk off signals? It's first going to leave your higher beta, your higher risk on plays. So could there be front running of crypto for the TradFi markets? Absolutely. Like Chucker's showing right now, we filled that gap, and then the immediate sell off is not what you want to see. And if you actually take the BTC 2021 fractal and overlay it on Nvidia right now, it actually is almost identical. If you want to grab that BTC 2020, 2021 fractal and overlay it on a video right now, it is almost to the T with the gap fill and everything. So just some things to kind of watch out for right now. Am I bearish long term on crypto? And do I think that we've topped the cycle? No, absolutely not. But like I said, there I think just needs to be the market was a little exhausted, and this is what you're getting right now is you're getting kind of like a little bit of a reset, and you know, bears are winning right now, but in the long term I am long term very, very bullish. And I'm not talking, you know, next cycle, you know, new highs in 4 years. I'm talking like, you know, we get a little reset over the next 30 to 45 days, and then you see the you know, probably the next leg up. So leading into mid-April, like we were talking about. And I also have a fractal on April that is in confluence with that, where we get a spike up on the VIX to 28, you know, to about that $28 level. And then that marks the high, and you see a compression in VIX. And yeah, so just kind of some thoughts from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Nvidia fractal, that I see that. I see that, and definitely like where did Bitcoin come back down into, right? It was his first consolidation, which was that on Nvidia. So I mean, I probably dragged that out too long, but that's the general gist of it. And then it just barely made it higher. I mean, it's not going to play out the same way, obviously, but yeah, I could see Nvidia coming back down into there. Yeah, that's the only thing is like crypto nuked pretty hard recently, right? And equities have not quite yet. So that's kind of my only hang up, but you know, am I going to do anything about it? Probably not, you know. Probably going to just continue doing what I'm doing, right? Like
I
'cause
think if you don't have the short exposure, like genuinely shorting equities has better RR, in my opinion, with clear, tight invalidations that you could synthetically hedge your crypto bags with. Like, genuinely speaking, I think crypto's given a whole hell of a lot, and there aren't clear invalidations on a lot of the crypto charts. Whereas you can set some super tight invalidations on a lot of these equity charts, hedge synthetically your crypto bags if you haven't already taken, you know, downside tail risk protection. So there's just my thoughts.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I've been saying for a little bit, somebody needs to save Nvidia, basically from this. So
See, I
we'll
have that
see.
trend line drawn a little different.
Where did you draw? Did you draw it like here or
Yeah,
something?
so I have it as like, yeah, kind of like an ascending triangle continuation, but it needs to kind of hold here. Like, again, it's another thing that's at a must hold level. So a lot of things are at like these levels where it's kind of, it's going to happen or it's going to not. Yeah. So you can even pull it back to there. Kind of have a flat top, a little, you know, not perfect, but I can't deny the fact that it does look distributive, very similar to what we saw in Bitcoin. But, and they beat on earnings, right? And that didn't really move it. So that is also probably a sign.
Yeah, it didn't move it at all.
But like, does Nvidia still have the weight to kind of swing the entire equities market as well? That's kind of something you need to consider. Like, what if like a new sector kind of takes the reins here? What if like the lower cap stocks start to take the rein or something else, you know? So it's kind of at that level where if it doesn't hold, yeah, it's probably coming lower, right? But I don't know exactly what effect that has on crypto. I mean, I'm sure maybe a little bit, but it's just one single stock. You know, no matter how much of a leader it's been, you know, it's still one single stock. So
what else could be the leader? Oh, Jesus.
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, as you know, Tucker, I've been playing with the whole like quantum jazz the past probably the past few weeks. But I mean, yeah, it's just like it's one of those things it's one of those things where you kind of keep your eyes out and it's going to make itself apparent probably pretty quickly, right? We had AI in not only TradFi but in crypto become the leader very, very quick, right? With GOAT. You saw Tia grab everybody's attention super, super quick when it came to the modularity, airdrop farming narrative back in late 23. It's hard to beforehand guess what those narratives are going to be and what those driving forces are going to be in the markets. But when they do make themselves apparent, it's it's pretty much in your face, and it's hard to miss. So I think I was talking about this in the Because Bitcoin Discord and the Giga Chad call the other day. But with these market resets, generally what you have is you have a new narrative spin up, and instead of getting discouraged at these lows and when we're accumulating at the bottoms, stay vigilant, keep your eyes out, be mindful of what's going on in the markets, because that new next hot narrative is going to form at those lows when we're accumulating. And if you give up and you step away, it's like you're going to be late to the party and you're going to miss it. It's like that meme where that guy,
you're always going to be late to the party.
Yeah.
That's like the big thing. It's like the people that are super bared up now after we've already seen the carnage and are talking shit. Like, that's great, but were you here in 2022 in the crypto market when the market was flooring and no one wanted to talk about crypto? No, likely not. Right? You weren't here then. You're doing the same thing now, likely, where you're giving up and walking away when it's the time period where you should be paying full attention. Whether it's here or lightly lower, we're in the general area, or something's broken and the market's cooked, right? So it's either going to happen or it's not. And when it's scary, and it's the most scary, no one wants to talk about it, everyone's giving up. That's when you buy. That's not when you get bearish and walk away, right? So you could sound smart and make fun of us all you want, but we were here when it was scary, just like this, and look how that turned out, right? So that's just the markets. That's just how you should treat markets in a nutshell, right? And that's how I found success, is sticking around when no one wants to pay attention, right? Because when no one's paying attention is when you have the best opportunities, in my opinion.
Yeah, what Tucker's looking at right there, brother, is something that I've been eyeing as well as that. Yeah, 2013, 2014, 2015. And I know Tommy's been talking about it a lot, but he's been playing with kind of the super cycle theory idea. And I mean, I think we are inherently in the roaring 20s right now. I don't think the party's over quite yet, but I do think that we are kind of in that area where, the pullback is not the end of the world. Like, we're not talking about a 2023 style pullback where you have, the broader markets pull back significantly, but just a little bit of something to give the market some breathing room, right? It's a little bit exhaustive. Let it reset, and then continue back. We're straight back on the train and grinding higher weekly, every single week, where every single week is just giving you just a little bit more and a little bit more, and probably leads us into 2027, 2028, and then you really watch out where I think is where you get kind of like a big reset in the overall markets. But yeah, I think we're just needing a little bit of pullback here, give us some breathing room, and then continue what we've been doing.
Yeah, that looks that looks really similar, actually. Just the RSI. I just put the 2-week RSI on there.
So you traded sideways. You had a little pullback, right? RSI reset. That's best case scenario, right? Market trading sideways while the RSI fully resets. That's extremely bullish, right? That means you got a whole nother leg without going through a long-term, bear market or pullback, right? So that's kind of the best case scenario, in my opinion. Like, let it trade sideways, let it cool off, right? But I think a move like this that we've seen in the equities, I don't, I think it ends more in a blow off euphoria type top, not a slow rounding off, right? I mean, anything can happen, right? But I think this ends with things being a little more crazy because why? Human emotion, right? Until humans don't have the emotions of fear and greed, markets will continue to do the same things over and over again, right? So you can't forget the human element and the human factor when it comes to markets, because at the end of the day, the movements on the charts you're seeing, while can be swayed by bigger money and stuff like that, but overall, longer term trend is based off human emotions, buying and selling, fear and greed, right? So until that changes, markets are not going to change, right? So
That's crazy, bro. This is actually very similar
Mm-hmm.
on a lot of fronts, actually.
Do I think you come down and you fill the Japan carry trade wick? I don't think so. I think 5,600 to 5,700 is a little bit more confluent with what the chart is asking for. But yeah, I mean the similarities are just I mean uncanny. It's pretty fascinating that I mean I hear people talk all the time that like, oh, like, charting's bullshit and why would you chart and yada yada yada. It's like, dude, just look at it. It's the same shit over and over again. It's like 2 plus 2, you know, is equals the same thing every single time. It's like it's just pattern recognition. It's just showing you its hand. And it's shown you its hand before, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, this wow, this is I mean, okay, so back here, RSI, right, I guess price came into this wick bottom right here, right? Like let's just
I remember that time too. Everyone thought that equities were
there we
top.
go. Yeah, right here. Okay, this wick low that it bottomed at was this bottom in RSI. Okay. That would pretty much be equivalent to this, I think, which would be like 511. I'm on SPY. I don't know why I'm on SPY, but that would basically be 12% lower on the S&P from here, which would not be fun, of course, but it dropped 12% in 167 days. I guess we can kind of see what Bitcoin was doing at the time, but
And another similarity to that time period, if I'm not mistaken, was right kind of after Trump took office as well.
yeah, it was. That was 2016 though, so that was a halving year. So slightly different timing wise, but
We've been seeing that already.
let's just
So
make this Bitcoin.
and that's the funny thing is people want to say that cyclicality is over and stuff like that for the upside. But if it's over for the upside, that means we're going to start seeing different things for upside movements as well, guys. You can't have it both. You can't have it one way without the other. So people are saying, oh yeah, cyclicality is over, but we're going to go into a normal bear market or a bear market. But I mean, cyclicality being gone works both ways. So if we're seeing things that we haven't seen before yet to the upside, we're going to start to see things that we haven't seen to the downside either. It works both ways. You can't just have it one way either.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, that falls in line with, the whole seasonality perspective that we have and, I mean, everything. And as you see this asset class mature more and more, in my opinion, we're just going to fall more and more in line. We become the liquidity and the capital becomes more and more correlated together, right? And it flows and fluctuates more and more seamlessly, right? So, yeah, I mean, this is some fucking alpha, guys. So, I mean, if you guys aren't, let's get that like button up. Like, what are we talking about here? Where's the like button at? Yeah, you guys need to start smashing that like button. I think we put the soybean chart on. I think we put some soybeans on.
What's the ratio looking like?
Probably not good if I
Like
had
viewers to likes.
I think we got what 300 watching, and What are you seeing on the back end there for the likes?
Hmm?
I think we got like 35 likes. I'm seeing 35 likes on the stream right now, guys. Come on.
No,
No, I gotta.
no.
Okay.
I'm seeing 100.
100. All right, we got 30%. We got a 30% like to viewer ratio, guys. Let's bump those numbers up. Come on.
Yeah, I did see August. Fiat hater. I saw that as well. Because that took 168 days. Yeah, that would be August. Now, my point in doing this was to see what Bitcoin was doing at the time, right? Because that's really what we care about. Let me put some lines on here. Okay, so this is where I measured it from. That was also okay. Bitcoin was $400 at the time, right? And this was like a bear market bottom, so a little different, but Bitcoin was going up during that time, right?
As S&P was going down.
Yeah, while it did this, just kind of nuke, pop, double bottom, whatever. So
Yeah.
is Bitcoin more correlated to equities now than in 2016? Yeah, definitely. So that's could be,
But it's also still more reflexive as well. So
it also front runs. Like I think it just did that probably this week, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see a scenario where if equities continue to, be heavy and put in a larger correction, we could see, the bottoming ranges be put in, whether on Bitcoin, ETH, and altcoins, right? That's definitely a scenario where I could see happening, even if we do go slightly lower, right? It's likely again in this area, like I was saying at the beginning of the video. It's more about the area, not like exactly bottom ticking it. If you bottom tick it, congrats, but the likelihood of that happening are slim to none, and that's just in my experience. So.
Yeah, and the majors too. I mean, it's important to understand that they have the most supportive flows out of everything in the market. And I always like to use the analogy that you think of the liquidity as a big lake, right? And as the reservoir starts to fill up, higher and higher and higher, the liquidity flows out into the shallower parts, and those shallower parts are inherently like altcoins, right? And so, where does it leave first when that reservoir starts to go down and as the liquidity starts to reduce? It leaves the shallower parts or the highest beta or altcoins first. And then what's affected last inherently is the overall market, right? Because you got to think that these, the majors have, much higher and much more consistent flows from the market participants than a lot of these altcoins, right? And that's why these altcoin pops are so fast and so reflexive and so violent. It's because they enter in super quick, the liquidity enters in super quick, and it leaves super quick as well. So that's what we're talking about. Why, just like with Ethereum back in May and June of 24, right? What happened was Ethereum was at 4K, but the majority of altcoins were bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And then Ethereum had the big nuke in August of 5, but August 5th, but a lot of the alts had given up inherently the majority of everything that they had, and essentially they were already bottomed out, right? I mean, even though they might have been down 10 to 15%, even 20% on that day, they really didn't give that much back nominally. So it's really important to understand that market dynamic and what occurs in the markets when we do get pullbacks and we do start to get an exhaustive market, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. And you also have to think about it like this as well. And it's a very simple way of looking at things, but sometimes simple works, right? And it's that if there are major profits being taken on the higher, the market leaders, the higher the bigger indices like the S&P, the NASDAQ, and these top companies, do you think that those profits that people are taking, you think they're just going to, just sit in cash and do nothing with that money? Or the people that are, taking profits, those are obviously, smart investors. Or are they going to look at, look for new assets and different niches and different segments of the market that are more, looking like more of a value buy, right? Like, do you see the profits roll into more different segments of the market that are sitting at value? And that's a question you have to ask yourself. Are the people that are taking profits here, are they just going to sit in cash and run away, or are they going to start to look for, value deals in the market to churn those profits into? And that's kind of how I look at it as well. And that's maybe also why you start to see, when you see pullbacks in a larger indices. We just saw that Bitcoin began to rally, way quicker than the S&P did, right? And it was even rallying during that pullback. So that's a great example where, I could see a scenario where, this pullback continues, but we start to see other segments of the stock market getting bid, farther down the risk curve. And then ultimately that leads back to crypto being the most riskiest. So I look at it as that like that as well. So.
Yeah, this is a good point too. We never went below a CME gap. You just fill it.
Yeah.
I guess should I be doing the B adjust on this? I don't know, because that does change it. Maybe. I mean, if I B adjust it, that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't really trade the CME gaps much. But either way, like looking at it like this way, we completely filled it. Looking at it the other way, we stabbed into it. Not to say we can't come back and put some more structure down there, maybe run the lows from last night. But I think a stab into that CME gap is also enough, right? So we will see. But again, just another chart at a level that kind of needs to hold up as support, because again, I do not think coming all the way back to that 8-month base we put in is healthy. Although it can happen, and we could see a bullish reaction off that level. I think that's more of a sign of weakness than just a breakout and then a throwback. Because again, I think that throwback should have happened way earlier, right? And it didn't. So if anything, it would be more of a sign of weakness than just a level to trade. So
yeah, there's a couple IBIT gaps too. That's a good point.
That gap's probably definitely confluent with the 75K region, the bottom one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I don't know how much strength or weight that holds in the market, but it is going to be interesting to see how we behave, and especially IBIT too. Because I mean, the institutions, I think Wednesday or Tuesday, I think they sold like $1 billion worth of BTC. So we'll see what happens here, but I'm sure too that they want to show a good Q1 and could definitely be some profit taking. So I don't necessarily think it's inherently bullish or bearish that they are selling a little bit of their stack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could see it. I mean, at least 44 on IBIT.
Yeah,
I think you could get 75K with 44 on IBIT, but I mean, because this is essentially filled. Like this, there has been price has traded in here essentially.
yeah.
So that's not really a good gap, But this one though, 44 could be 75K, but doesn't really matter all that much. I don't think it's not that much lower. 8%. We're already down like 30 from Bitcoin from the highs, so
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, I think this entire way up, we have drawn down. I think I was telling you like 20 to 25% from the highs, doing what we've been doing. Yeah, this way up, the entire way up, and we're right at that 25%, pullback region. So I don't think we have a whole lot left to give, if I'm being honest. And yeah, so yeah, we got 33 there. What did we get on that?
All these other ones were like 21, 22, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, the order of magnitude too, as we go higher, could also be that we pull back further, right? It could just kind of be an order of magnitude kind of thing as BTC does become bigger and bigger.
I mean, this is kind of the general trend, right?
If you pull that top one down to the 75K region, what would be the pullback from that level?
31. I mean, it'd be 31. Yeah. I wonder what this was though, because I really do think it looks similar to this. $21.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already pulled back further than that.
Yeah, it likes that sweet spot though. I mean, that's kind of what it's been given back the whole time. So this whole run up.
The negative fibs, the fib retracements, huh? All right, hang on. Oh damn, that's a good idea.
There's likely some 618 confluence here on this pullback.
I mean, it depends where you want to draw these from, but almost hit the 1618 there. I'm just gonna make this 1618. Well, shit, hang on. That one was beautiful. I mean, didn't get it on that. Depends where you want to draw it, though. Let's see this one. I mean, you double bottom, so you definitely didn't get it there. Didn't quite get it there. The nicest one was this, for sure. Just tagged it. That would be confluent with 75K too. That might just be too perfect of a level, though. They might not give it to us, but I like it.
Yeah, again, it's in the area, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we give pretty precise targets, but at the same time, like if it's in the general area, I think that it's important to not be too focused on an exact number, right? It's a general and broad understanding of the current dynamics of the market and what's going on. And so, like, if we don't come down to the levels that we're exactly talking about, like exactly 75K, but we really start to see a turnaround in the markets, you start to see the VIX compressing, you start to see things looking really good, then I mean, that's when we shift on a dime. But we just are calling it how it is right now, and it's important to understand that if you have people give you price targets, take it with a grain of salt, right? It's in confluence with probably 20 other things that they're watching in the market, right? And everybody wants to take, but X and X said, we're going to hit 150K this cycle. Well, it's important to take everything else into consideration that they've been looking at as well, and why that they're looking at the numbers that they are. And if things inherently start to change with what they're using as confluence, then then we shift, right? Stay agile, light on your feet, right? It's like being an O lineman, looks heavy but light on the feet, right?
It's a great example, Prometheus. It's a fantastic example. Yes. Oh man. All right. You want to take us out, Louis? Probably overcooked.
Surely. You want to pull up the screen for me?
Yeah, I'll just pull up the terminal because we rarely show the terminal. I think Ed's been upgrading. So let me see.
Yeah, terminal guys, like they are constantly, like our devs are always doing something, constantly adding features, tweaking it, fine tuning it. And I've been using the heat maps on it a lot, and it's been actually very useful. In these large swings to kind of give you an idea of where price is going to go next. It's not an absolute science, but it does help, especially sometimes in the lower time frames. And last I looked at it, lots of liquidity on those heat maps sitting more above us than below us at this point. So another factor. So BB Terminal, just your all-in-one stop shop for crypto trading and investing. Full trading view integration, along with many other indicators that we've added on. Also including the heat maps and other stuff like that. You can calculate DCA strategies with this as well. You could track your own portfolio across multiple wallets, all in one place in real time. So you don't have to constantly go back and forth to each wallet. You can track everything all in one on the BB terminal. And we're going to be continuing to add to this. And I believe at some point down the line, you're going to be able to also trade on this platform as well. So literally you have all your charting, all your indicators, all your wallets, all in one place, right? And that's something in crypto that you cannot find, or it's very hard to find, where you usually have to use multiple different services and apps to kind of put them all together to be a well-rounded crypto trader and investor. But BB Terminal, we are kind of solving that problem where you can do everything in one place, right? And for the monthly fee, I think it's $99 a month, $97 a month. You get access to this as well as the Telegram group associated with the BB Terminal, where our guys are constantly giving updates with features that are available on the BB terminal. So you have that. If you're looking for a little more, I know we come on here and do these streams every day, Monday through Friday, but we honestly, a majority of the alpha and information we give is in the Discord, right? 2 calls a day, morning calls before the market open, afternoon calls right before the market close. And on the outside looking in, if you're watching these streams, I think it's easy to kind of not get a full glimpse of what we actually provide. But if the people are in the Discord, know that we're constantly in there giving alpha and information, and some of our analysts we're calling for these recent moves, and that's another beauty of because Bitcoin is that we have a multitude of analysts, right? We have 7 to 8 analysts that are some of the best in the game. And we all provide our own ideas and analysis, right? We're not all we all don't meet up and say, okay, this is what we want to say. This is, what we kind of want to express to our viewers. It's each of us as analysts are doing our own thing, providing our own analysis. And it's up to the users to kind of put it all together and decide what they want to follow, what they don't. Because most groups and courses on in the crypto space are one person, right? They're one person, so you only get one view, and most of those groups as well don't have. They're one way, right? So the analyst or whoever's running that group will put in their charts or analysis, and that's it. With us, we have several chats where you could chat with community members. You could ask us questions. You could, we do the calls twice a day. So you're always in the know and kind of in the mind of the analysts on our team. So an extreme value, in my opinion, especially in times like these where, things are confusing. You're seeing totally a bunch of mixed views on crypto Twitter and stuff like that. So an extreme value, especially in times like these. And I would highly recommend getting in there and seeing what we're about before making your judgment. But other than that, if you do not have time, I know a lot of you have full-time jobs. You do not have time to track the crazy market that is crypto, that's ever moving and ever evolving. We do have BB Wealth Management, our own SEC registered hedge fund, where we can manage the money for you, right? If you like what we do here, you like our analysis, and you're looking to invest for accredited investors only, we can take your money and do our own work with that as well with our hedge fund. And you can kind of just sit back and not have to be so involved the day to day. So all of those things are what we offer, guys. Please check them out. And I think you could find something, there's something for everybody that we offer for all types of traders and investors in this space. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're happy to be back. We are back to regular scheduling starting next week. So we will see you back on Monday. We have a fresh monthly open starting tomorrow. So coming Monday, the monthly opens for equities and the monthly open for crypto starts tomorrow. So starting with a clean slate, we've seen the worst, in my opinion, and we'll see how we react and what comes of this. So stay tuned. Thanks for coming out, and we'll see you next time. Peace.